Hello and welcome to Cricbuzz Live. My name is Tanay Tiwari, and what a game we've got on our hands today. In the red corner, we've got the Punjab Kings. In the blue corner, there can be 4 teams out of 10, but it's Gujarat Titans for the day at the Brabant Stadium. In the red corner, we also have Joy Bhattacharjya today. And not really in those colors, but supporting Gujarat Titans is what I've heard, is Lisa Sthalekar. Welcome, people. Joy, you've made no efforts to really show which team are you supporting, right?
Hey, I'm supporting Gujarat. You didn't know that.
Oh, really? Oh, God. That shirt didn't really give away anything.
No, absolutely. These are called, in spy parlance, these are called false flag operations. So you
Wow.
wear the coat of another team and you distract people and all that. But no, I'm just looking forward to what promises to be a mouth-watering contest. One really batting-heavy side, sluggers of batsmen, and one of the best bowling attacks in this year's IPL. So I'm really looking forward to this one.
It is one of those contests, right, Lisa? I mean, with Gujarat, you see, there's a different philosophy altogether. They've packed their team with some real match-winning bowlers. You've got Lockie Ferguson, you've got Mohammad Shami, you've got Rashid Khan, 12 overs logged in there. And then Punjab, they've got blasters throughout that batting lineup. Which philosophy do you careen towards, though?
Well, as an all-rounder, I guess I can pick and choose when I want to actually side on the batting or bowling side. But there is a saying that a lot of the players adhere to: batters win trophies, bowlers win you tournaments. And based on how Gujarat have been going, I know they've only played 2 games, but they're the only side that's been unbeaten. It seems to be working well for them at the moment.
It does. Enjoy the difference between these two philosophies is so apparent, and I don't think it's as apparent in two teams as it is between these two sides. Gujarat have packed themselves with bowlers. Punjab really rely on their batters. This might be a contest to look forward to.
Yeah, and the thing about it is that it's how the philosophy of what they've paid big money for. Yeah. And if you look at what Gujarat has paid for bowlers, and Gujarat has paid for all-rounders. Hardik Pandya, they bet obviously very strongly on Hardik Pandya. And that shows they didn't really pick up a quality international batsman. Perhaps David Miller's the only one there. Matthew Wade obviously is a wicket-keeper batsman. But look, the big money has gone behind Rashid Khan, Rahul Tewatia, all-rounders, Hardik Pandya. They feel that those 3 guys are the middle order players, and that's where they paid big money. Again, Lockie Ferguson and of course Mohammad Shami. So this is a philosophical thing. Whereas who has Punjab paid big money for? They've retained Mayank Agarwal with big money. They paid big money for Shah Rukh Khan. And they paid big money for Liam Livingstone. Now, Livingstone, at the end of the day, you might say he bowls a few overs. But I can tell you, they're not paying for his spin. They're not paying for his leg spin. No. It's a nice, extra when you get it. They're paying for that batting, that destructive batting that he can do.
Yeah, correct. And that's that philosophy there that he's talking about, Lisa, is so apparent, of course. But is there a utopia? Is there an ideal situation? Can you really lock in, invest heavily in both departments and get one of those? Like a synergy of these two teams would be best.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's kind of trying to unlock the secret and trying to figure out what's the best combination, whether it be all-rounders. I know the Sydney Sixers in the Big Bash, Greg Shippert, the head coach, he's all about all-rounders, players that can do bits and pieces of everything. And based on the day, conditions, opposition, you have the versatility and the flexibility. So I don't think there's a hard and fast rule. Each tournament is always different. It throws curveballs. You just need flexible players. You need your big players to stand up, and they should win you. Your internationals or your big players should win you roughly 2 to 3 games a year in a tournament, and then you hope that your domestic players are able to subsidize that to get you across the line. So I think everyone's still trying to figure out what the hard and fast rule is. And it also depends on the coach and the group and the dynamics, because off-field culture, camaraderie is really important. Bless you, Joy.
Bless you, Joy. But Joy, we talk about this ideal playing 11, we talk about these ideal squads, but what's the way going forward? Because in other formats, the longer formats of the game, you of course have specialists, but here in these two teams, as the difference is so stark, what's the way forward? Is the way forward really all-rounders being packed in that playing 11?
It's a difficult thing to say. The point of it is that more and more they've discovered that, as batsmen become more and more inventive, you're going to find it difficult to control batsmen. You're going to find it difficult to control the run rate. The only way to definitively control run rate is to take wickets. So as this format has sort of gone on and on, I've become increasingly convinced that it's really important to have bowlers who can actually get you wickets. Not guys who, batsmen can play out for 4 overs and then it becomes difficult for, and then you're just trying to get them on the run rate. Those bowlers are your fourth or fifth bowlers. I feel bowlers 1, 2, and 3 should be wicket-taking bowlers for you. And I know this only because the last time when I was in KKR and we won a championship, it was Sunil Narayan and Morne Morkel who really set it up. They are the guys who go and take wickets. And for all you say about Sunil Narayan being restricted, he's also a wicket-taking bowler. At the best of times, he's an amazing wicket-taking bowler. And that's what does it. So the only anomaly that I have seen is comparatively has been Chennai to a certain extent, where they've just had an average bowling side, one decent bowler, and somehow the batting has just blasted its way through. But that's really rare. Usually it's 1 or 2 wicket-taking bowlers, and then the batsmen do the rest.
Let's have a look then what Gujarat Titans have, because they've won the toss and no surprises to anyone. They've elected to field at the Brabant Stadium. They have 2 changes. Varun Aaron, of course, had picked up a niggle. Darshan Nalkande comes in for him, a right-arm pacer, and Sai Sudarshan comes in for Vijay Shankar. Now that's an interesting choice, Lisa, because they did rely on Vijay Shankar. They gave him a prime spot. They gave him an opportunity to succeed, but those runs were just not coming from Vijay Shankar.
When have the runs come from Vijay Shankar? I mean, you have to go back a long way, don't you? And he gave a couple of innings every now and again for Hyderabad, but nothing really that probably allows him to kind of ask for that type of money as well. So sometimes with those type of players as well, you just need to put them on the bench, give him a chance just to kind of rethink things. Get a little bit hurt by being dropped, because he may have thought, right, I'm locked into the playing 11 for the rest of the tournament. But, that healthy rivalry within a playing group is actually really important. And sometimes you just need to put a player on ice and that just might spark something else from them.
Correct. And there have been questions around Vijay Shankar, so much so that we have a hashtag Ask Cricbuzz Live question for us, Joy. And it's been a pain point for Gujarat Titans in their relatively short stint so far in the tournament. And Mohan asks, Vijay Shankar feels like a square peg in a round hole, batting at number 3. Could Gujarat try Gurkeerat Maan? Of course, they've gone with Sai Sudarshan. And I think with Sai Sudarshan, Joy, they also add another dimension, a left-hander in that batting order, because apart from Matthew Wade, they didn't have a lot of options of left-handed batters in that batting order.
Yeah, very interesting, because Sai Sudarshan actually bats ahead of Vijay Shankar in the Tamil Nadu Mushtaq Ali team, in the T20 team. Sai Sudarshan is the gun number 4 player. And actually, if you look at it, when they keep batting Vijay Shankar normally likes to finish. He comes at 6 and 7. Dinesh Karthik and Vijay Shankar try to finish. So somewhere there, I think Vijay Shankar post being chosen ahead of Ambati Raidu, that famous 3-dimensional versus 2-dimensional player choice, things haven't really gone well for him. He's a hardworking kid, but I just think he's not a number 3 batsman naturally. And you put a lot of pressure by giving him a lot of money. And I feel, honestly, number 3 is the most difficult slot to play, because you could be 1 for 1, or you could be, 90 for no loss and walk in the 11th over, and you could just accelerate. So it's really a reactive role. You can't decide the parameters. The parameters are decided for you. And yet you're a sort of anchor for your team. So it's a big role. And that's the one reason perhaps Gurkeerat Singh Maan, they couldn't have done it, because if they had to do Gurkeerat Maan, they probably had to promote one of their other batsmen and have Maan come in, because again, Gurkeerat Maan is a very natural number 5 or number 6 bat. He's not a natural number 3. So Sai Sudarshan, good call. And Gurkeerat Maan, those are the numbers for him. Syed Mushtaq Ali has not been bad for him at all.
Yeah.
But again, look at that run rate. Okay. That strike rate of 127 is not going to give you too much confidence. 48 not out is his highest. That, of course, is also because of the position he bats in very often. Very often, he's not batting that early in the order to give you those kind of runs more than that.
Yeah, and they need an impetus with that batting order, but with those bowlers, they don't really need much, which means it'll be an easier job, Lisa. Because if you look at Darshan Alkande's inclusion there, he's got some great company on either ends. He's got Lockie Ferguson, he's got Mohammad Shami, so his job is relatively easier than Sai Sudarshan, you'd say.
Yeah, and maybe he's going to come in and players may sit on Lockie Ferguson and Mohammad Shami, and he may pick up the wickets the other end. But he will certainly be targeted by the opposition. It's a chance for them to get on top of. They go, right, who's the weakest link? Right, we're going to go him, and so I'll be interested to see how they play him out and how well he'll go. And what he picks up as well from the likes of his senior counterparts in Lockie Ferguson and Mohammad Shami.
Professor Joy, what is, for the uninitiated, what are your impressions of Sai Sudarshan?
Well, Vidarbha bowler, very, very successful bowler in Mushtaq Ali and this time.
Darshan Nalkande, my apologies.
Sorry,
Yeah.
The Vidarbha bowler, medium fast, really workhorse bowler, does very well in Mushtaq Ali tournaments. Just recently, I think there was against Karnataka, they had a Mushtaq Ali semi-final where he took 4 wickets, but he just couldn't do it all alone. But one of the things that you do is that with sides like Vidarbha and all, their top players really have to literally carry their fast bowlers, their top fast bowlers. Smaller sides, Mumbai, Tamil Nadu, you have lots of talent. Very often, Vidarbha is 1 or 2 really good batsmen and 1 or 2 really good bowlers. So when you're carrying a side, you're used to taking more responsibility, which is why I've seen, players who come from places like that, like Shakib. Shakib, the current Bangladesh side is a good side, okay? But maybe you take it back about 10 years, Shakib was carrying a lot of the burden. He knew that 8 times out of 10, he had to score runs, he had to take wickets because there wasn't that much help. So when you come from smaller states, I feel you take more responsibility simply because you have to. If your team has to succeed, you have to. So again, Darshan Nalkande is a case of coming from that kind of a background. I don't think, as I said, I think he's the kind of guy, if he's given a chance, if they target him, they target him, but he's not going to back away. He's not going to back away, and I don't think he's going to frighten very easily.
Yeah, he's done the hard yards in Indian domestic cricket, and we've seen what these cricketers do when they've done the hard yards in the Indian domestic circuit. They come out and shine. Gujarat Titans would hope that he shines. Let's have a look at the Punjab Kings playing 11 as well. There is one change there, Lisa, and that one change is Johnny Bairstow, of course, walks in with that 140 plus strike rate, 40 plus average. Had to walk in, but he walks in place of Bhanuka Rajpaksha, who's not put a step wrong actually.
Yeah, I mean, this is the joys of the IPL when you've got such a star-studded list. You've got players who are amazing cricketers in for their country or domestic cricket, but just can't get in. But you can't turn away from Johnny Bairstow and what he's been able to do within the IPL. I mean, when he was opening the batting with David Warner, they were both just electric for Hyderabad, but the numbers that you see, average 41, the strike rate, of 142 and 7 50s and 100, like they're great numbers and you can't say no to that. So not surprised that he gets the nod. I don't think anyone would have been surprised as well that he came in.
Yeah, and he's in the form of his life, Joy. I mean, he's had an Ashes 100, he's had a 100 against the West Indies as well. And it may have been a tough choice, especially given that, the way he was batting there, even in the West Indies, even in Australia, he walks into this side, but there will be pressure on him as well because Bhanuka Rajpaksha was doing nothing wrong.
Yeah, but I think the way they have to look at it is they had 2 choices. They could have either gone with him there or they could have taken him to replace Odean Smith because my honest opinion is Odean Smith's 4 overs, he may bowl it at 145, but in these kind of conditions, if you bowl at 145 and you're not very accurate, you just go for more runs. So if you look at Odean Smith's economy rate, probably people like
13, yeah,
exactly. They'll probably give it to them as well. So I think that's the choice that they would have made. I just think Kumble likes to have that some sort of an explosive guy batting at 6 or 7. But this change is very much reminds me of the Australian team at its best, where their batters, Brad Hodge would score a double 100, he'd score a 50 as an average, and then Mark Waugh would come back and Brad Hodge would go straight out because, he's a better batsman and that's how it's meant to be. And I believe that philosophy that these guys are not earning themselves over 3 matches. They've earned themselves over an entire career and their current strike rate. So they're there for a specific reason. And when the better batsman comes, you give way. I mean, I have no issues with that at all.
Correct. But Lisa, if you really have to play both Johnny Bairstow and Rajapaksa, as Joy said, then you drop Odean Smith. But if you go down that lineup again, you see the moment you drop Odean Smith, you just have those 5 bowlers there. And that becomes a problem. 4 bowlers, actually.
Yeah, it is a real problem, and you're really relying on Liam Livingstone, aren't you, to give the 4 overs, and you're not quite sure what he's going to give. And given the fact that you're playing at Bradman Stadium, a ground that has plenty of runs in it, you actually need more bowlers than you need batters. So I can understand that that was one of the reasons. If it was maybe at DY Patel, maybe you could have mucked around with that and maybe put even more of fire. I'm not quite sure who a good Indian domestic player all-rounder could have been. So
Shah Rukh Khan also bowls a bit, so you could have given him a couple of overs. In a bigger ground, maybe Shah Rukh could have given him a couple of overs. Yeah.
Well, and maybe that's what he needs to do as well to get himself going as well, because he's had a really poor start to the IPL. So, I wouldn't be surprised if we see some changes. But for Bradman Stadium, to have Odean Smith, have another bowler at least, makes sense.
Now, there is another confusion in that playing 11, Joy. Who keeps Jitesh Sharma, who had a great first game, or Johnny Bairstow, the senior pro?
Look, I mean, it's a tough one. I think if they give it to Bairstow, it will only be so that Bairstow is more comfortable with what he's doing. And just sometimes, if you're keeping first, you have the opportunity. Of course, here you're going to be batting first, so things could change. But suppose I come into a game and I haven't played for a while for this, obviously, first time I'm playing for this franchise. What I'd probably do is give him the gloves just for him to sort of get into the game early and sort of read the pitch. Because if you're keeping to a pitch, you normally get a much better read of how the bounce is going, what's happening with the ball. It's a great way to introduce yourself to what's happening in the game. But in this case, they're batting first. So, really, it depends. If Bairstow bats 17 overs and gets 100, perhaps he'll just say, Jitesh Sharma, you just take the gloves and look after this.
Has Jitesh Sharma actually, does he field sometimes in other teams?
See, he plays for Punjab. So at Punjab, he's a keeper for Punjab. So
whereas at least Johnny Bairstow, there are times that he's in the field for England.
And he's very good at it. So
correct. Yeah. So I think they may do that. I think they may keep him in the field because at an international level, domestic level as well, he doesn't always keep. So he's used to being in the field. Otherwise, Jitesh Sharma is almost like a fish out of water if you put him in the field.
Correct. But it didn't seem like he was fish out of water at all in his first game. The way he batted, the way he kept, there was that one dismissal down the leg side of MS Dhoni. And even before the game started, he was giving an interview and he said that I spoke to MS Dhoni and MS was all praises about my movement as a keeper. But really, Lisa, it was that batting, the way he came out and took everyone by surprise. I mean, if you'd seen him in the Syed Mushtaq Ali Trophy, you knew that he could hit those big sixes, but to do it at the biggest of stages in the IPL, that's saying something.
No, but this is what we expect in the IPL, isn't it? Yeah. Domestic players, they come in, they've worked hard, they've toiled hard for a long period of time, they've got runs under their belt, and it's all of a sudden they go, here's my chance. The lights are on me, the cameras are rolling, I've got commentators in the commentary box that have never seen me before. Here I go to announce myself. And this is why we love the IPL. So I get excited that I get to see some of these fresh faces. Some are older faces, but it's first times in, but they have such an impact. And that's why Indian cricket is so successful as well now, because of this platform.
Correct. And that platform was used well by Jitesh Sharma and also by Vaibhav Arora, Joy, the way he bowled. And I know that in your archives, you have a Vaibhav Arora story as well.
No, absolutely. What is there to say? We spoke briefly about it yesterday, but just to get on, basically an Ambala kid, father has a dairy farm, the business goes bust. His coach tells him his father tells him and he wants to earn a living because his dad's not making enough money. The family needs money. His coach tells him 2 more years, just give it 2 more years. Then he can't make it in the Punjab team, so he goes to Himachal Pradesh. Can't make it out there either. Starts playing district cricket, makes the under 23 Himachal, then makes his way back to the Ranji side. Then he comes and, one of the most heartrending places, and I've been to those places, are the trial camps. Because every youngster you see who's worth something is going out there hoping to impress some coach or the other. And they keep going from place to place trying to sort of show their wares and get there. And one out of every 10 makes it. And, the look on their faces when they suddenly realize that, the coach is not interested anymore. They're just walking away and they're just doing, because it happens. Coaches also get fatigued watching players one after the other. And this guy finally goes for trials at KKR, goes to trials at Rajasthan Royals, MI, doesn't do well. But I told you, his college mate was Arshdeep Singh. So Arshdeep says, why don't you come to Punjab and be a net bowler there? And he gets to be a net bowler there. And they see him, they like him. People like Gale and all are impressed by the kind of away movements he gets to left-handers. And they picked him for 2 crores this time. What an amazing story. And
Correct.
look, it is a survivor bias. But the point of it is every guy like Vaibhav Vadora who makes it is an inspiration to the hundreds of kids lining up in those trial camps.
Correct. It's a story straight out of Dreamland. It's a story for a Bollywood biopic right there in the making, isn't it?
There needs to be a cricket La La Land somewhere. I really believe
absolutely.
La La Land somewhere.
Yeah, but Lisa, you touched upon how the IPL is a stage for Indian domestic cricketers to really shine with the lights on your faces, and we've all spoken about how it is never easy. But just these trials and errors and rejections and selections, these players are hardened by this process so much that by the time they get to this big stage, they're mature enough, regardless of their age.
Yeah, you're right. The great thing about India, great or depends if you're in the system or you're not, is the amount of people. Like the amount of people that are forging or trying to find a way into squads. As Joy said, literally going from one trial camp to the other. And I've seen Rajasthan Royals trial camps where, hundreds of kids. And you're right. It's almost like numbers are on the shirts and you're like, sorry, who was that? Players can just get lost. So you've got to shine at the right moment. You get rejection. But one thing that you can't teach as a coach is resilience. You can try and implement it in your training programs. And, if you're out in a net session, you don't get to bat again, that type of stuff. But going through that in real life and fighting hard for something that you're passionate about and something that you dream about, nothing can quite beat that. So that's why it's great that these players that have had to fight their way through year after year, they come on and they perform straight away, and it's lovely to see.
Absolutely. These are stories of not only talent, these are stories of resilience, and a combination of both of them just breaking doors open. Where talent meets opportunity, there couldn't have been a better tagline for this tournament. But Joy, there's one more player. Mayank Agarwal scores tons and tons of runs in domestic cricket. Now he's been told to captain Punjab Kings. That bat hasn't really gotten going for him so far, though.
Yeah, that first match he got going, the next couple of matches, I think he's going too early. And one of the reasons, in my theory, and it could be a strange one, is the fact that I feel what's happening to him is he feels that, last year the feeling was that KL Rahul was not going early because the burdens of captaincy, and he felt that he needed to be there. And here somewhere he wants to disprove that theory and wants to go hard up front and, set an example of a captain of taking risks and getting that run rate up there. And I just think somebody needs to just have a quiet, calm chat with him, because he's a far better batsman when he's not reaching. Yeah. He's got all the shots in the book. He doesn't need to reach. And right now he's reaching. And with this kind of an attack, especially the attack they're going to face now with somebody like Shami, who's so brilliant at taking the ball away early. If he goes and forces his hands or plays, early, tries to push the shots through, he could be a candidate. And they really depend on him, because somebody like Shami coming in and making early inroads into this, it's not going to be easy for them to bat after that. So it's important that Mayank Agarwal plays like the top order test batsman he is also.
Correct, yeah, and that will be very important. Lisa, now you've captained the side. When you were given that captaincy, did your performance also take some sort of an unintentional hit?
Yeah, sometimes actually captaincy can bring the best out of you. You feel like you have to perform well, lead by example. That's a very Australian mentality. I feel, and I probably played under skippers that did exactly that. So I tried to do the same thing. I think statistically my numbers were pretty good. I mean, probably with the guys in the office, Cricbuzz office, could probably put up a graphic,
We'll
by
get that
the end
done.
of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, don't do that. I don't want to see
Okay.
my numbers.
All right, don't.
But the expectation of IPL, captaining Punjab, who have bought so well, there is that added pressure, that constant pressure that we've got to get off to a good start. We've got all of these firepower batters. I don't want to waste time at the top. So I said this last night as well, that there is more time than you think in T20 cricket. And the best way I used to kind of get myself out of the groove is watch old innings of when I did really well. All he has to do, he only has to rewind to last year and see some of the innings that he did and just focus on, well, what did he do? What was his thinking? What was his process? Try and recapture that. Cricketers are creatures of habits. So find what you did when things were going well and try and recreate it. Fake it till you make it, basically.
Yeah, correct. What do you think I'm doing here? Just that. Nothing else.
You're going great guns.
See, what else do you need? Yesterday she said that her World Cup medal is also mine and Joy's. Today she's facing. There's nothing else. I mean, you said no, you'll get it. We'll click a selfie with it and then we can show it to the world as well.
I didn't say it was yours. I didn't say it was yours.
I mean, it's the same. It's within the group only, right? If you won a World Cup, we won a World Cup, right, Joy?
Yeah. Not only that, we're Australian also, honorary Australian. Let's take citizenship as well while we're at it.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. But now we've got some business pending, and that business is really important. You guys are already out there with your phones on your laptops, I know. So for the Joy factor, Joy, please take it over.
Okay, here it goes. 3 players sharing the same surname have played tests for India, and not one player with that surname has ever played a second test. Just identify the surname.
Wow. Oh, goodness. Wow.
Same surname, 3 guys. All of them played just one test and never played a second test.
Wow. Okay. That'll need some. I'm clueless right now. Lisa, you have any clue?
I have one clue, which I don't know with Lisa might pick up on. There's an Australian connection in the third.
Okay, we'll go. We'll do our researches. You guys, I know you're already sending in your answers. Hashtag Cricbuzz Live. Now to the most important part of the show, of course, the score predictions. Who was the defending champion yesterday? Who won?
Joy.
I think Joy won. Of course, Joy won. Of course. I mean, why are we even bothering asking that? Joy, please go ahead then. Punjab Kings batting first at the Brabant Stadium. And Matthew Hayden, I'll give you some hint. You don't give a lot of hints to Joy Factor players, but I'll give you one. Matthew Hayden has said that there are a lot of runs in store. There's even covering of the grass on the pitch.
I'm going to go, I normally lowball, but I'm going to go higher this time. 187.
187. Okay, yeah, that's very high. That's very high by the standards that you set yesterday. Lisa, yours?
I'm going to go 192.
Okay, 187, 192. I like Liam Livingstone a lot, so I'm saying he's going to score a quick fire 70 and Punjab are going to put on the board 205 runs.
Ooh.
Go big or go home, Lisa taught us yesterday. No?
Yeah.
Just following that. Yeah. 205 then. Those are the predictions. What are your predictions? Don't forget to send them in using hashtag Cricbuzz Live. That's all that we have for you on this edition of Cricbuzz Live. Thank you, Joy. Thank you, Lisa, for joining us. We'll, of course, see you at the 10th over mark with Cricbuzz Combox and then in the mid-innings show when Punjab will score 206 runs. See you.